All right. I think everyone's in for the most part. Let's get some cameras on today. How's everybody doing? Everybody have a good weekend?
Yeah, it was a real good weekend.
You guys hear me? Lance, I think you were talking. I couldn't hear you though, but
Yeah, I had a good weekend. And I'm gonna go to a couple showings later on this afternoon, hopefully. So
oh, nice. Nice. Everyone else good? Kayla, Carlos, feel free to turn those cameras on if you want. So today we're gonna be talking about open houses. So for new agents, one of the best ways for new agents to pick up and generate business. So this is a big one for new agents. I mean, this is how you see most new agents get out there and get their first couple of deals. It's super helpful for experienced agents to have new agents and hold open houses on their properties because a lot of times they're too busy to do it themselves. Income you guys, and it's good for you because you pick up a lot of clients. It's good for them because it helps sell their house. So it's kind of good all the way around. So I think everyone is kind of in. So go ahead and share the screen and we'll jump in. Go. All right. Has anyone in here done an open house yet?
yes,
Okay, so a couple. Okay, good. For those of you who raised your hands, any luck? What kind of success did you have? Or Heath, how was yours? You're on mute, bud.
It was a pretty slow day for me. It was like only one person came. It was like on a Sunday.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you hold the open house? Was it did you handle the whole process? Were you co-hosting it, or how'd that work?
It was me and Lance.
Okay. Okay. All right. Heath, how about yours?
I've held a bunch open, probably around 20 so far.
Oh wow. Okay.
I've had pretty good, most of them is like 4 or 5 groups show up. And I've had one client from the whole situation, so probably not the best conversion rate, but
All right, we're gonna work on that today. Okay. Now, were
Yeah.
you hosting these yourselves or yourself?
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does someone else say they don't want to? Kaylin, you haven't done one yet, have you? Okay. And Carlos, I'm sure he probably has. Okay. So we'll go and do our daily affirmation first. I am professional in every way, dress, manner, knowledge, and action. Super, super important. You have to be a professional in everything. You have to be knowledgeable about what you're doing, how you present yourself, how you act, your manners, how you speak to people, and the way you dress. And I think a big part of the way you dress is also your car, right? And that doesn't mean you have to have a fancy car, but keep it clean. So, I mean, obviously you're going to wear a clean outfit, make your car look clean. And Saturday, actually, I had plans with my wife to go to a brewery in South Charlotte, Soul Meat in Noda. You guys have been there. It's a very cool place. Great outside. It was great for my son. He's 18 months. It's a playground and good food, good drinks. But right before that, I went to I had a client say, hey, can you stop by and see the house? So I'm trying to get this listing, and it's $1 million house. And the first thing I did is we went to Autobell. So we were a little bit late, but I wanted to have my car clean because it wasn't. It had been raining, my car was nasty, and that was part of me being a professional, right? And I showed up, and guess what? This guy's out in his front yard talking to the neighbors, and I pull up in my white, shiny, clean car, and that's the first thing he commented, right? So being professional in every single way, right? Know your comps before you go out there. I've got a couple showings. I know Lance did a couple showings today. One of the things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna download the MLS sheet and I'm gonna go over some of the numbers. I want to know how old is the house, some of the agent remark. I want to know that off the top of my head. So when they're asking me what I'm walking through, even though we're gonna be walking into this house the same time together, that I know some of this stuff, right? So That's a great affirmation. One of my favorite ones. So again, the purpose of an open house, selecting the open house, how to increase your attendance, which I think is kind of what all three of you mentioned was, you had some people going, but how do we get more attendance? And then staging and setting your office up for the day. And by office for the day, you mean the house that you're showing, obviously. Meeting attendees, converting these prospects. We got to get that conversion rate up, right?
Yeah.
You know, these things are, I mean, you can almost pick up one client at every open house, and they might not be ready to buy or sell right then and there, but you can at least add them to your CRM, your database, and they'll be your client in the future. And then the post open house and how to follow up. And again, that's exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to have some people that are going to open houses because they're buying right this moment. But I also understand there are people just kind of getting an idea. They've got 6 more months in their lease. They're just trying to brainstorm and see what they do want in the future. You know, a lot of agents will be, I'm gonna say lazy, but they won't even follow up with that person, right? But guess what? You're gonna need money in 6 months from now too, right? Right. So you gotta always make sure, as you guys go on with me every week, you guys will understand that pipeline is my biggest thing. That's the biggest thing for my agents too. It's like, the more you build that pipeline, the more stable you're going to be, right? You know, real estate can be something where you guys are getting paid every single month. For some agents, they're getting paid every single week, right? It's because they're building a pipeline, right? Like I know that I need to take a couple listings this week, and that's what's going to start my 2023, right? So I'm already thinking about getting paid for next year, and I need to take some listings this week, right? Success with open houses. Lead generation is obviously the most important thing, right? And obviously you want to sell the house that you're doing it. A lot of times it's not your property, but lead generation, exposure as well, right? And I know we talked about this last week, but you know, you guys should be posting this stuff on social media, whether it's your listing or not. If you're doing the open house, absolutely share that. Don, I thought what you posted last week when you signed with Realty One Group, that you just signed. Remember you posted on Facebook? That got a ton of exposure, right? I think you had over 100 likes, and then we shared it on our page. I mean, things like that is huge, right? Right. So if you have an open house, you know, whether it's your listing or not, post on your social media several days before, right? And obviously the day of, right? Or you know, an hour or two before you're setting up, you know, come through, you know, get with the address and things like that. And then, you know, the more that you're posting, the more you're letting people know that you just do real estate. It's not even about your friends and family even coming to that open house, but it's just letting them know that that's what you do, right? So yeah, great use of your time on a Saturday or Sunday. Heath, I know you've done a lot. Have any of you guys ever done anything that's not on a Saturday or Sunday?
I've done one or a couple on a Friday night.
Friday night, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, typically people only think of Saturday and Sundays. But yeah, I mean, you guys can get creative. I mean, I understand sometimes a Wednesday evening is a good time to do it because that's when most people are home and able to do a showing. You might not want to do a Wednesday from 12 to 2 like you would normally do on a Saturday, but you can mix those times up, and sometimes they'll be very helpful. Selecting the property. So sometimes this is out of your hand, right? You don't always get to control the listing and who has the listings. And, you know, obviously, you know, if you can do them on your own listings, that's the best, right? I mean, that means you have listings, and then you can do them. But if you're going to reach out to another agent, you know, you have the choice. You know, you want the location, you want to make sure that it's priced correctly so that you're going to have attendance. But obviously, doing it on your own is normally how you guys are going to start. But you guys should be on the Facebook page. You guys should be on a website. You guys should be everywhere looking for new listings. When someone in the company, I mean, there's roughly 70 something agents between our offices. Anytime you see somebody post a new listing, message them, say, hey, like, I'd be happy to hold an open house for you, right? I mean, sometimes people like Jordan is very good. He's one of our top agents in Rock Hill. He'll always put, hey, I've got a new listing. Does anyone want to do an open house, right? And that's easy to respond to, right? But also there's a lot of people that post their new listings and don't ask people, right? Go out of your way and say, hey, Andrea, I just saw you have a new listing. Would you care if I did an open house at it? Majority of the time they're going to say absolutely, right? Because it's good exposure for them, and it's great leads for you. So don't be shy. If there's a listing that you see, ask them if you can do an open house. Invest in personalized yard signs. We have a few open house signs that people borrow, and they go quick, right? On the weekend, these things fly. I actually tried to get some for one of my agents this weekend, and we waited till Friday, and they were all gone, right? So agents will go take them from the office and bring them back after the open houses, but and invest in your own. I do think that the open house signs from, the cheap ones from like Lowe's are also really good. I like those because you can write the address on them. You can write the time on it. You can put the price on it. You can be a little bit more specific. It's good to combine them both, right? Because this is great because it has our logo on it, and you can have your phone number on it and stuff. But you're not able to customize because you don't want to write on this, right? You don't have to order another, keep ordering these things. So don't hesitate to go to Lowe's, buy 4 or 5 of them, get you a big old marker, and just write. Just write nice and bold so that people can see it while they're driving. And yeah, you can customize them. That's what I do. And you're gonna throw them away when you get done, but those things are so cheap. You're gonna spend 30 or 40 bucks on a couple of cheap signs, but it's gonna be customized to where you're going. Obviously, if you can hold an open house in an area that you're already farming, that's great to do. But again, you guys don't always have the luxury of picking where the listings are. And again, vacant versus occupied properties. What's going to be different with that? Kayla, what do you think is going to be different holding a open house at a vacant property versus an occupied property?
Sorry, I think when it's an occupied property, you're definitely gonna have to make sure whoever's living there has the house, nice, and make sure they're not necessarily in the way during the open houses. Versus like when it's vacant, you can kind of hold it pretty much at any point in time because no one's living there.
Yeah, so that's definitely a good answer. So occupied properties, it's good because it's occupied, so you can see the furniture, right? You can see the layout, they have it decorated, they're living in it, right? So that's some of the pros. What might be a negative about it being occupied?
Probably that the people could be messy almost, or that there's too many personalized items in the home. So you
Mhm.
kind of have to go through and make sure that certain things are taken down and that it looks clean and nice.
Maisha, do you want people do you want the owners at the open house?
No.
No. And
Of course
also
not.
with them being in there, they might say they don't want you showing it at certain times as well. So
Yes, just in general, occupied homes can be a little bit difficult because you have to work around their schedules. So when it's occupied, it is nice because it's basically already staged because somebody lives in it. But you do have to make sure that you have their schedule. Like say, hey, I'm going to hold this open house from 12 to 2. Could you be gone from 11 to 3? Right? Go to your friends, go out to whatever you need to do. Try to leave the house early. I'm going to be here at 11 and start getting the place prepared. Right? So if you can clean it the best you can, maybe you don't cook fish the night before, right? Because there's times you go in there, they're gonna have smells, right? Take your dog with you, right? I can't tell you how many times we've tried to do open houses and they left their dog there. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about taking my dog. All right, well, do you want me to babysit your dog for 4 hours while people are going in and out of the house, right? So there's a lot of stuff you have to think of in advance. Have them make their beds, right? You don't want to be going to somebody's house making their beds and picking up their underwear in the bathroom, right? Like try to have these people there, do a quick walkthrough with them before they leave. So you can explain to them what they need to help you with before they leave. What are some pros of a vacant house? Heath?
Vacant house is a lot easier as far as just like not having to deal with people who live there. The sometimes it's better for people to see the house with no furniture in it so they can sort of put their own ideas down on it. But that can also be a con as well.
Yeah. Any other, what's another con? Anybody? About a vacant house?
Safety.
That is the exact answer I was looking for. What do you do about that?
You gotta let your friend or family know where and when you are going to host an open house.
Yeah. So you can have some smells in the vacant houses. Depending on how often you're showing that house or how often whoever's listing that house, if it's someone else's listing, ask them, right? And don't wait till the day of to go to that house, right? Go do a walkthrough the day before. And if that house has been closed for 2 weeks, you ever been in a house that's been closed for 2 weeks, no doors been open and out? It's stagnant, right? It might be 100 degrees in there because they turn the AC up. It might be 30 degrees because the heat's not on, right? Figure out the situation in advance so you can have time to fix it, right? If you like this morning, if you had a showing this morning at a house that's vacant, like it'd be freezing. I didn't turn my heat on last night. So I woke up. It was pretty cold in the house. The wife was not very happy with me. But yeah, I mean, imagine trying to do an open house and it's 40 degrees in the home, right? It's not gonna look good, right? So vacant houses is like he'd mentioned, like it is nice because people can be creative and they can see what the house looks like empty. Some people like furniture in it. I don't know that you'd want to stage for an open house because that's a lot of work and expense, right? And especially if it's not your listing. If it's someone else's listing, then they would be the one to do the staging and stuff. But there's pros and cons with both of them. Weekends versus weekdays. I would say probably 95% of open houses are Saturday or Sunday. Weekdays work as well, especially in a really busy neighborhood where you can get a lot of foot traffic. Those can be good. Your open house kit. So everyone does their stuff a little bit different. But yeah, you should have a lot of signs. And that's why I said having the customized, the Realty One Group signs are great. Have 2 or 3 of those, but also have 2, 3, 4 of handwritten signs, right? Saying what time and date they are. You want to make sure people know in advance. Obviously you want to have a big stack of your business cards. A lot of times you're going to have printed off stuff like the MLS, basically your flyer sheet, anything else about the area, pictures and things like that, and things that people can take with them. And a lot of times you'll go ahead and have the property disclosures as well. So the open house signs are obviously the most important. Obviously you want to have business cards on the inside, and then you want to have some kind of sign-in sheet when you get there. Clipboard sign-up sheet. I use my iPad, so when people come in, I have them sign in. There's different apps to use. Sometimes I just have it right on my notes app. But that is one of the most important things, right? So every person that comes in that house, you don't have to follow them around, right? An open house, because they're not all actual buyers. Sometimes they're just nosy neighbors, and that's fine. So they don't want to be toured around the house, but have every single person that comes in that house write down their name, number, and email address. And people don't always love that, but at the end of the day, if they are buying, they are going to use an agent. Why would it not be you, right? And again, that's your goal here. I mean, realistically, the goal is for them to buy that house, but for you, it doesn't matter as long as they buy, period, right? So that's what you want to do is focus on getting their information. Again, if it's vacant and there's nothing in there, table and chairs, a lot of times I'm just going to use the kitchen, the counter, right? Put your business cards and all that stuff in the kitchen. Flashlight pins. Hopefully the power's on. If the power's not on, you shouldn't be doing an open house. when do you guys normally put out signs? When are you normally putting out the yard signs?
Well, I think there's like a rule that you're not allowed to do it till after 5 PM on Fridays. So that's what I've been going by. So I've been doing it the day before.
Gotcha. Anyone else? So yeah, I mean, you might want to check with the HOA. The sooner you do it, the better, right? Sometimes somebody coming in at 5, especially right now, at 5 o'clock, it's pitch dark, right? I mean, that's, if you can do it a couple of days in advance and use those signs as the cheap ones from Lowe's, right? The ones you custom done, yards, not yard sale, Jesus, open house Saturday from 12 to 2. This way, put it out earlier in the week if you can, right? And if someone picks up and takes it, and they pick it up and take it, put another down the next day. But get those signs out there as early as possible, because you want as much traffic seeing as you can. Obviously the morning of, you're going to put out a lot more signs. You're going to put, balloons on each sign if you can. Balloons, as cheesy as it sounds, they make a huge difference. It really gets people's attention. I never believed that until I did it for the first time, and like my traffic doubled. And if you get one extra client from putting some silly balloons up, it's worth doing it, right? So yeah, it again, depending on the neighborhood, if you're in $1 million neighborhood, yeah, you probably want to ask somebody before you start throwing a bunch of signs up. So be careful with that. But the sooner you can get signs up, the better it's going to be. Know the areas. If it's in a neighborhood that's tucked away, like you might have to put some on more of the main street, and then a side street, and then another street. Some of these places are harder to get to. Sometimes these people, the only people that are going to be turning into that neighborhood are people that live there, right? So you don't want just those people. So you need to put signs farther out so people turn off the main road to go see that, right? So very, very important. This helps as well. Invite the neighbors. Do some door knocking, and we've had people that have been rev up just recently do the same thing. Is just knocking on neighbors' doors right before, say, hey, I'm holding an open house this morning. Like, if you know anyone in the neighborhood that might be interested, please feel free to walk in yourself. I've got some cookies on the counter. Like, get that traffic going, and the more people that you see going in and out of a house, the more prone you are to stop, right? Think about that. Like, use a stupid example. If you drive by a bar and there's only 2 cars in the parking lot, you're probably not going to stop, right? There's no one there. You don't go to somewhere where it's dead, right? But if the place is popping, it's got a lot going on, like, you're more prone to stop in and check it out, right? Right. Do the same thing. The more people you can get in and out of that house and see that excitement for the showing, the better it's going to be, right? Call your friends and family. Call other agents, right? There's times I had just 4 or 5 other agents there, and again, it's good for you because it kills some of the time. But also, like, the other people don't know it's the agents, right? So the more people you can get in that house, the better it's going to be. Knock on the doors. So Heath, when you did a lot of these, did the person who's listing it did they put it in the MLS?
Yes.
Okay. So you always want to make sure that it's in the MLS that there's the showing, right?
Yeah.
It needs to be on Zillow. It needs to be posted everywhere, right? That as a rule of thumb, like, try to do it at least a week out, right? There's so many times where, like, I'm scheduling showings for a property and I see it has an open house on Saturday, right? Those people a lot of times will just go by themselves, right? And if you have a buyer that you've been working with for a long time going to an open house by themselves, make sure they sign that agency agreement before, because if not, whoever's working that open house might get them, right? So know both sides of it. Know that if your potential buyers are going to an open house, understand that those people working that open house have the same intentions that you do when you do an open house, right? So be smart about that. Make sure you get those agency agreements signed, but make sure it's in there, right? It'll be posted on, you know, when you do that in the MLS, it'll be posted on Zillow and Chula and Realtor.com and all that stuff. If you are holding an open house for another agent, check those websites and see if you see it. If you don't, say, hey, like, can you make sure you're posting this in the MLS so we can get more traction, right? Just check that in advance. But again, a good week out is nice. Sometimes sooner. If you know that in a week and a half you're going to do it on the following Sunday, like, go ahead and start promoting it ASAP. Post it on your website, obviously your social media. Again, we've already talked about this, but do it a couple of days in advance. Do it the day of. Do it as soon as you find out. Video announcement, boost ads on Facebook. You know, through Realty One Group, you know, we have Boost. And anytime I have a new listing, I typically will boost it on Facebook for a couple of days. When one of my properties closes, I'll boost it. It's already sold, but it looks good that I get it out there that I just sold a property. And then the same thing for an open house, right? It just gets a ton of traction for people that you would not normally reach. And I think it's normally like $60. So for $60 to get it in front of thousands of people is absolutely worth it. So again, this is all information you guys are going to do, whether it's your listing or someone else's listing. You should be doing plenty of research on all this stuff and have all this stuff prepared and printed out for your potential people. So we won't go into a lot of detail. This is kind of comments and stuff, but obviously the MLS data sheet, school info, just what's in the neighborhood. Go to the community center, right? Do they have a pool? Do they have tennis courts? Like, know all that stuff. Know the HOA fees. If you don't know it, ask the listing agent. If for whatever reason they don't know it, tell them to ask the owner, right? If it's not your listing. Consider a partner for safety. You know, a lot of people do open houses in teams. I know you guys mentioned earlier, you did one with Lance. Always good to do, right? And you know, sometimes there's gonna be lulls where you might not get anybody for an hour, right? It's nice to have someone else there with you. You don't have to do them in pairs. It's completely up to you. It really depends on how busy you think it's going to be. If you think you're going to have 50 people because it's in a super busy neighborhood, have someone else there with you, because the last thing you want is to look unorganized and no one's there running it and people aren't signing in. The day of the open house. Don't run late. I've done that before. I've shown up late to my own open house, didn't have the lights on, didn't have any of that stuff. It's not a good look. Plan on being there a minimum an hour early, if not earlier. Have everything on, know where everything is. You know, this is kind of basic stuff. Obviously the lights, the windows, like, get as much light in there as you can. And if you're gonna have other agents there helping you show it, like, write down notes if it's a complicated property, right? The listing appointment I went to on Saturday was $1 million house, and it was so custom. He was telling me about the stucco on the outside, and there's like 10 different layers to that stucco. And we talked about stucco for like 10 minutes. I was literally writing down stuff about stucco that I had no idea about, right? The door was this ridiculous custom door that didn't even have a handle. But those are things that, like, I needed to have notes in case someone else shows it. They need to know how to explain that to somebody else, right? So do that. Come on in. Obviously you guys know how to interact with people. Obviously asking questions like, are you actually buying? Are you just in the neighborhood? Don't ask them if they're being nosy, but, you know, ask them what their process is. Are you a seller, right? Do you have a house that you need to sell? I specialize in that as well. You know, let them know what you do. Let them explore on their own. When I do a showing, like the 2 showings I'm doing this afternoon, I will lead them in every room probably and be a little bit more hands-on. For an open house, I know that people kind of roam around, and then if they have questions, I'll walk them through. Ask questions. People people who own, obviously you want to ask, the questions like, are you going to be selling, or is this gonna be a second property for you? People who rent, obviously you want to ask them when their rent's up, right? When does your lease end? And if it ends in 3 months, don't wait 3 months. You need to start that process now, right? And then for both of these people, I'm asking if they've got a lender, right? And if they don't, I'm gonna recommend my lender, because that's gonna tie both of these people to me even more, right? If they're using my lender, they're gonna use me, right? Some more CMA objections. We're not thinking of selling. We're not ready to sell right now. I mean, these are all things that you're going to get. We know what it's worth. We just want an appraisal. These are the most objections you're going to get all the time when it comes to listing appointments. So again, preparing the CMA and building the rapport and getting them to like you is going to overcome a lot of this stuff. Because I understand a lot of the stuff that's on here is really just, they don't know you enough to like you. So they're going to give you kind of basic objections on why they're not going to work with you. But again, this is something that's, if they have a house to sell, don't schedule for that same day, schedule for another day. Hey, can I come back out and see your house, get their address? Let's schedule it for Monday afternoon. I'll come out, I'll do a CMA for you, whether you're selling now or not, right? And a lot of agents, when somebody says I'm not selling right now, they'll just stop altogether, right? I don't care if they tell me they're going to sell in 2 years. I'm going to come out to their house. And then once I get there and I build my rapport and they like me, I'm going to explain like, hey, but what if you could get this much now? And what if the market does this in a year, right? I don't know the future, but I do know what the market is right now. And a lot of times when you explain that to people, what they told you earlier doesn't really hold up. Make appointments. Ask for appointments. Don't be scared, right? You guys spent a week preparing for this open house. You guys have done the open house. You've baked cookies or whatever you did, or made mimosas, or whatever the case may be. You spent all night doing custom signs. Ask for the business when you're there, right? As many people that are there, every single person, even if they're a neighbor, like hey, like when can I come out and see you next week, right? Every single person, you should be asking for an appointment from them. Make sure you have their phone numbers and take notes on that person. Give them all your cards, but follow up with every single one of them. Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of objections, and this is something we probably won't get into all in this specific rev up. But know the objections when people are going to come out there. Know a lot of potential buyers are just scared. They don't know much about the buying process. They don't know if they can afford it. They don't know if they can get approved for it. They don't know how the whole process works. They don't know how to put in an offer. So when you're starting to get objections like that, just understand that you're the expert, and then you can hold their hand and walk them through this entire process. After the open house, make sure you clean up. There's nothing worse than getting a call from a seller that you've left their house a mess. So just clean up the best that you can. Make it look like you were never there. Writing a note is very helpful. And I think this is, let's see. You guys see this? This is a note that you guys can do. Your open house results on Bridget Way. And this is how many neighbors came. This is how many buyers or realtors came. How many realtors came alone, because you will have realtors come by themselves. It's a preview for potential buyers. And how many buyers on their own came. And then just some feedback on what happened. This is a super, super nice way for the owner to come home and see what you've done. It looks absolutely great. Even if it's not your listing, you doing this looks so professional. And maybe they'll recommend you on one of their friends looking to buy or sell a house, right? But this lets them know that you've worked hard, right? If you only had one realtor previewing for someone else and no one else showed up for the whole 2 hours, maybe you don't leave a card. Maybe you give them a call afterwards, or maybe you call the agent that you're holding the open house for and explain to them what's going on and have them have that conversation. But ideally, your listings, if you're have it on the MLS, you've got signs up for several days, you're inviting people, obviously, you hope you have a good turnout. And that's another reason why you want to invite people, because you want these numbers to look good, right? If this is 00110, you know, it doesn't look good. So get as many people out there as you can. This is an open house checklist that I'll email each of you guys. It just kind of what we explained, but it has a little bit of what to do before, what to do during the open house, and then some things to do afterwards. The biggest thing is following up with all your people afterwards, obviously. Collect all your signs. Don't leave them out there. I know that sounds ridiculous, but a lot of agents will be lazy. They'll just leave their signs and then wait for someone to trash them a week or a month later. I've literally seen yard signs a month later in some neighborhoods that they've never cleaned them up. Be respectful and pick those up. Thank you notes. Yeah, I'm doing this the same evening every single time, with my picture in the email, so they'd remember that it was me. And I'm going to follow up with them. I'm adding them to my CRM and follow up. So this was a pretty quick overall rev up for the week. But again, for new agents, I mean, this is one of the most important ways for you guys to get your first couple of deals. Yeah, I think something good this week is, you know, just follow our Facebook group and see, you know, when people put just listed, and everyone on here, if you haven't done it already, like try to get a showing scheduled, right? And if you get a showing scheduled and you're nervous, have another agent reach out to another agent. Say, hey, like, can I co-host it with you? Would you mind me coming and being there? So I haven't done this before, right? Don't be nervous about asking them for help either. And if they can't do it, then ask another agent, right? I'll be happy to help you guys as well. So try to, you know, each and every one of you guys try to find a way to get in an open house the next week or two, right? Want to be nice to pick up and have your first client before the end of the year, going into the holidays, knowing you got someone you're going to start 2023 out with, have a little money in the pocket. Any questions or comments on any of this stuff? So quiet this morning.
So I have a quick question.
Okay.
When hosting an open house, right? Like, how do we find a house that is like the price range that I'm looking for? Like,
How do you find a specific listing that's in the price range that you want to sell?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's really just on what's available, right? So I mean, you can go through the MLS and see which listings that Realty One Group has. Again, following our agents on Facebook is usually where I see which listings are out there. And if it's a house that I think I would like to do at the right price point, I would reach out to them. So I mean, you can really do an open house on any property, but yeah, if you only want to do properties that are $400,000, I mean, wait till you find one that's in that price range. Do some research on it. Make sure it's an area that you feel comfortable doing it in, and then reach out to them. Anyone else? Anyone gonna have an open house this weekend? I might have a listing this afternoon signed, and it is in Matthews. If I get that, if they'll do an open house, I'll let you guys know, and maybe you guys can, one of you guys, if you're guys available, you guys can do that.
yeah. I haven't hosted any open house yet.
Say it again.
I haven't hosted any open house yet. Like,
Yeah.
never
Okay.
done it
Okay.
before.
Well, he put himself at the top of the list. Yes. Yeah, so if I get it, I'll definitely let you guys know. Any other questions for me or anything else? Any comments? Not related to open houses? Anyone else besides Lance got showings this week? Come on, guys. Make some phone calls today. Everyone make one social media post. Everyone reach out to somebody that's got a listing and see if you can do an open house. Make that your goal for this week. All right. All right, guys, we will talk again next week. You guys have my cell phone number if you need me in the meantime. And then Heath, I'm gonna shoot you an invite here as soon as we got here, okay?
Cool.
All right, guys, thanks.
Yeah, have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks.